Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Veil, a study of the tabernacle, the temple, and the glorious presence of God. Today, we are in lesson 11 as we look at the priesthood of the tabernacle. Thus far in our study, we've looked at a lot of details relating to the tabernacle, especially in our past few previous lessons. We've looked at the outer courtyard and the pieces of furniture there. We looked at the actual tent itself, the tabernacle. We looked at the different fixtures found within the tabernacle. And in our last lesson, we looked at the Holy of Holies, specifically the Ark of the Covenant that was found therein. Well, today we turn our attention to the priesthood because after God delivers all that extensive instruction about the tent and all the details about the tabernacle, God began outlining to Moses this priesthood which would serve in and around this sanctuary, this tabernacle compound. What we find is that the priesthood came from a very specific family and tribe. The family that is found is the family of Aaron. And so Exodus 28 and verse 1, it says, "Then bring near to yourself Aaron your brother and his sons with him from among the sons of Israel to minister as priests to me. Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, Aaron's sons." And so Aaron's family is set aside as specific servants or priests to the Lord. But you also find, like in Numbers 3, how the tribe of Levi, all those who were Levites, were also set aside for the work of priests in the service of God. And so Numbers 3, beginning in verse 5, it says, "The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Bring the tribe of Levi near and set them before Aaron the priest, that they may serve him. And they shall perform the whole duties for him and for the whole congregation before the tent of meeting to do the service of the tabernacle. They shall also keep all the furnishings of the tent of meeting, along with the duties of the sons of Israel, to do the service of the tabernacle. You shall thus give the Levites to Aaron and to his sons. They are wholly given to him from among the sons of Israel. So you shall appoint Aaron and his sons, that they may keep their priesthood, but the layman who comes near shall be put to death." Those are just a couple details here to point out. God set aside from all the 12 tribes one very specific tribe, the tribe of Levi. They were chosen, special by God, designated to the work of worship and service of his presence. And so everything relating to the tabernacle, the building up of the tabernacle, the setting up of the tabernacle, the priests who would enter into the tabernacle to light the lamps, to offer the incense, those who would care for all the furniture and the fixings of the tabernacle, all of that were done by the priest. God chose one very specific tribe to do this work, to care for, to protect and guard and upkeep and serve in the worship of God among the people, the Levites. They uniquely belong to the Lord. You will read in Deuteronomy 18 and verse 5 says, "For the Lord your God has chosen him out of all your tribes to stand and minister in the name of the Lord." In Deuteronomy 18 and verse 1 it says, "A Levitical priest, all the tribe of Levi shall have no portion or inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the Lord's food offerings as their inheritance. They shall have no inheritance among their brothers. The Lord is their inheritance, as he promised them." So it's this idea that God set them apart for a special purpose to work and labor in the service of God and his worship. Because of that, they were not to have they really didn't have time to do the other day-to-day workings, the day-to-day work of building or serving or laboring to make their money, to buy their food. And so God instituted a tithing system to provide for these feasts or priests and their families. And so they received a portion of food from various sacrifices presented from the Lord, Numbers 18. When God divided the promised land and divided the land by the 12 tribes, Levi did not get a slot of land. Instead, 48 cities were given to these Levites all throughout Israel. By the Lord's design, these men, they didn't have to concern themselves with the day-to-day tasks of ordinary life. But it's hard to overstate the seriousness, the grave responsibility that rests on their shoulders of caring for, providing for, offering their work and service to the Lord in worship of the tabernacle, in worship in the tabernacle of the presence of God. They belonged wholly to the Lord, purely to the Lord. Another section I think that describes this well is Numbers 18, Numbers 18, beginning verse 1. It says, "So the Lord said to Aaron, you and your sons and your father's house with you shall bear iniquity connected with the sanctuary. And you and your sons with you shall bear iniquity connected with your priesthood. And with you bring your brothers also, the tribe of Levi, the tribe of your father, that they may join you and minister to you while you and your sons with you are before the tent of the testimony. They shall keep guard over you and over all the whole tent, but shall not come near to the vessel of the sanctuary or to the altar, lest they die, they and you die. They shall join you and keep guard over the tent of meeting for all the service of the tent, and no outsider shall come near you. And you shall keep guard over the sanctuary and over the altar, that there may never again be the wrath on the people of Israel. Behold, I've taken your brothers from the Levites, from among the people of Israel. They are a gift to you, given to the Lord, to do the service of the tent of meeting. And you and your sons with you shall guard your priesthood for all that concerns the altar and that which is within the veil. And you shall serve. I give your priesthood as a gift, and any outsider who comes near shall be put to death." So some specific details found, and this is Numbers 18, 1-7. One is that it says that the Levites were given to Aaron to serve and care for Aaron and his family as high priest, but they were also given to the Lord. This priest was purely devoted in the service of God and the work of God. You also found all throughout this section this language of guarding or protecting the presence of God or the sanctuary of God. In what way were priests guarding God's presence? You have to ask that. In what way were they guarding or protecting the presence of God? Well, think about it this way. God's presence represents his holiness. God is holy. It's who he is. And so his presence was to be protected and preserved among the people. And we see that different ways. It's not just that they stood outside the tabernacle and said, okay, wait, are you a Levite? Are you of Israel? If not, you can't come in. Well, that's kind of a given. That's kind of a given that they were careful to protect the tabernacle and all the work that went into it. But there's also a sense in which the priests represented and defended or protected the holiness of God. And so you'll see scenes like Exodus 32, when Moses draws the line in the sand after that event with the golden calf. And essentially Moses is asking, whose side are you on? God's or not? Anyone else's? An idol's side, man's side? Are you on God's side or not? And so he draws a line in the sand, and it's the Levites who come on Moses' side, and the Levites who are told to execute those who did not come over to give their allegiance to God. Or maybe you think of Numbers 25, when God's people were wrongly influenced by Moab and Midian. And so the men were intermingling, having sexual sin with the women from those nations. And there was one specific Levite, Phinehas, who found a core violator, this man who was having relations with this woman, and he put an end to it by ending their life. Here is a Levite protecting the holiness of God among the people. That's this idea. These priests were chosen. These Levites were chosen to represent and defend the presence of God, the holiness of God. And so you look on the map on the screen, there's wisdom to the fact that they didn't have a sole isolated territory in the promised land. No, they were scattered all throughout. And so in each of the different territories, or in each of the different tribes, you will find pockets of the representatives of God's holiness all throughout the land. In each of the tribes, in each of the different places, in each of the different sections, there was these pockets of holiness, these collections of representatives of God, all among God's people. That is the priest. Those who were chosen, the Levites, chosen, set apart by God, special to him, to serve in the tabernacle, to offer the worship before the people, to represent God's holiness and purity and righteousness among the people. That was the priest, those set aside for his specific purpose. Well, the head of the priesthood was the high priest. Then we find described about him in good detail in Hebrews 5. I like what the writer here says about the high priest. He says in verse 1, every high priest taken among men is appointed on behalf of men and things pertaining to God in order to offer both sacrifices, gifts and sacrifices for sins. He can deal gently with the ignorant and misguided, since he himself also is beset with weakness. And because of it, he is obligated to offer sacrifices for sins. As for the people, so also for himself. And no one takes the honor to himself, but receives it when he is called by God, even as Aaron was. Aaron was the first high priest. He is the head of the priesthood. And the role of the high priest was really a representative role. He represented the people to God. You see that here in verse 2 and 3. He was able to come on behalf of the people, bringing the blood of a sacrifice, seeking forgiveness and atonement, seeking God's mercy. And he himself could know it well, could represent it well, because in verse 2, he used to be beset with weakness. He's a sinner too. He needs forgiveness as well. And so he comes interceding. He comes pleading on behalf of the people, representing Israel before God. But then he leaves from the tent representing God to the people. He bears forth his law. He teaches and upholds God's law. He makes judgments on behalf of God's law. And so he represents God among the people. And he is set apart from all the rest of the priests and even all the rest of the people, again, representing God. And what you see on the side here on our screen is that he was expected to wear specific garments for glory, for beauty, for holiness. You see the purple ephod, as some will say. Exodus 28, verse 6 through 14 describes this. It was a colorful linen torso garment held together by a skillfully woven waistband. It had 2 shoulder pieces, each holding an onyx stone up here on the top. The names of the 12 sons of Israel were engraved on the 2 stones, so that the high priest could bear their names before the Lord on his 2 shoulders for remembrance. Right in the middle was a breastplate or breastpiece of judgment. Exodus 28, 15 to 30 as well. It was worn over the ephod, and it was attached with gold chains and rings. The breastpiece had 4 rows, each with 3 precious stones. Each of the stones had engraved upon it a name of one of the tribes of Israel. The breastpiece also contained the Urim and the Thummim, which appear to have been used in seeking God's wisdom, his guidance, and at various times in Israel's history. Numbers 27, 1 Samuel 23, 1 Samuel 28, 1 Samuel 30. The Urim and the Thummim seem to be stones that man used when they were seeking guidance from the Lord. Those are found in the breastpiece of judgment. He was to wear a blue robe, Exodus 28, 31 to 35. It was worn under the ephod. You get this imitation pomegranates of blue, purple, scarlet yarns, all finely twisted together, and this robe alternating with golden bells. It says in Exodus 28, verse 35, its sound shall be heard when he goes into the holy place before the Lord and when he comes out, so that he does not die. And so you see at the bottom there of this blue robe, the hanging of these golden bells. And so you heard him as he came. He was clanging or ringing as he came to and fro when he put on his holy garments. He had on a coat of fine linen, probably worn underneath the robe. He was to wear a sash embroidered with needlework. And then he had a turban of fine linen, held by, as you see on the bottom there, a golden plate, the holy crown, Leviticus 8 and verse 9, on which were engraved in Hebrew, holy to the Lord. This man is holy to the Lord. All the rest of the priests wore coats and sashes and caps with linen undergarments. But the special garments were to be, as it says in Exodus 28, verse 43, on Aaron and on his sons when they go into the tent of the meeting, or when they come near the altar to minister in the holy place, lest they bear guilt and die. And just a reminder here, the language is severe, and I think it impresses it upon us that when men, even kings, did not respect God's pattern for the priesthood, consequences were serious. They were severe. King Saul learned that the hard way. Though these priests were many in number, one thing the Hebrew writer will point out is that they were only human. You see that here in verse 2 and verse 3. They only lived so long, and they were full of weakness because they're men, and they sinned. But that changes. That all changes when Jesus comes as our high priest, the perfect priest, who has no sin, who offers a sacrifice of his own life on behalf of the people. Now I want you to think, as we kind of put a close on this study today, what do you think about this? Priests, the Levites, set aside for the purpose of serving God in his tabernacle. I want you to think about it. What would it be like to be a priest? What would it be like to be a Levite? I mean, you imagine the honor of being a Levite, one of the special, the people from the special tribe chosen and set apart by God. Think of the honor that went along with being that. Think of the honor of being a priest who would serve in the tabernacle. It was your job to go and to light the lamps or to offer the incense, to change and to burn the incense inside. To offer, to help serve anywhere in the outer courtyard of the tabernacle, to maybe set it up, and to set up the tent, and it was your job to set it up or to take it down. Imagine if it was your job to carry one of those special pieces of furniture. Imagine even the ark. If it was your job as a priest to carry the ark of the covenant. I think sometimes we think of the significance of the high priest, and obviously that would have been such a humbling and incredible responsibility. But just to think about being a priest and the honor of serving your nation, serving your brethren in worship, but honoring and serving God. What a privilege. What a blessing. But you also think about the responsibility, the grave expectation. This is serious. It was serious to God. And so God gave his expectations about what it meant to approach him. You had to approach him the right way, with the right clothes and the right manner. It was all signifying how important his presence was among the people. Stop and think about this for a minute. We'll come back to these thoughts in a few lessons, but Peter says to us in 1 Peter 2 and verse 9 that you are a chosen race, you, the redeemed, you, a child of God, you, a Christian, bought by the blood of Jesus, you are a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. You are a priest. If you are a Christian today, you are a priest. Well, in light of our study, what do you think that ought to impress upon us? About the incredible honor of being called a priest today. That all of us, every single one of us, can bring our offering of worship before the Lord. Every single one of us can draw near to intercede, to offer our prayers and our petition and our praise to God. but also the great expectation. Don't lose the sense of reverence. Don't lose the sense of majesty, the, the great holiness found there within the presence of God. Don't let your worship become something stale, become something uh, irreverent. Don't let your worship become something less than pure, God honoring, God focused, pure, holy, righteous, honoring worship. I'm saying honoring a lot. You get the idea. I'm kind of locked in the brain lock here. I'm not going to re-record this. We're finishing it here. Make sure your worship is always the best. Always the best that you can offer. Make sure that whenever you worship God, whether it's Sunday mornings or at home on your own during the week, it's always the best. Then when you draw near to God, it's with a pure heart and sincere, pure devotion to Him. Don't be irreverent. Don't lose the significance and importance of the presence of God and in worship. We are priests. Bear that name and that title well. The priesthood, we're given a special responsibility and a special opportunity, and we have that as well today. And so use it well. Thank you so much for joining me in this study today. I hope it's been a blessing to you. Join with us in our next study as we look at the final detail relating this tabernacle, and that is the sacrifices found in and offered at the tabernacle. I hope you have a blessed day, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.